Welcome back to the Crash Course Podcast. My name is Craig Crash Collins, joined as always by Brandon Scott, otherwise known as B. Scott. We've got, just like the past few weeks, a lot of football to talk about. We're going to put a bow on the college football season. We're going to wrap that up. We're going to talk some Colts as their season is now over. And we've also got some previewing of the NFL Divisional Round to do. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Really excited to get into it with you, B. Scott. But first of all, man, how was your weekend?
It was a busy weekend. Lots of coaching and other just general work. How about yours? How was yours?
Mine was good. I mean, worked a little bit, watched a little bit of football. Unfortunately, watched the Colts season end a little bit too soon, although, spoiler alert, I think they did fumble on that last possession there, so they did get a chance, at least at the end, that they probably shouldn't have had.
I will admit, I was so tired, I went and I took a nap at halftime.
I got you.
And I did not see the entire second half.
I mean, hey, because didn't your wrestling team, did they win the tournament this weekend or something like that?
My girls team competed in the girls regionals, and one of my freshmen qualified for state. So I was out really late Friday coaching at a tournament, and then practice 9 a.m. on Saturday morning, and some work for the NCAA. All in one day.
So yeah, you were putting in the work. You were getting that bread, I think is what the kids say now, right? Is that what they say now? Is that what they go by? But no,
I don't know. I'm too old to know what the kids say.
But see,
I'm old enough now that I can say back in my day.
Yeah, see, here's the thing. A lot of the successful radio shows and podcasts, they have if it's a sports one, they have coach. So they have I can call you Coach B. Scott, and already we've got a lot more clout and a lot more cred. So I like that.
They call me Coach B.
Coach B. All right, I like it. Well, of course, as you guys know, we are on a different day this week, and that is, of course, because of the college football playoff. And so that's where we are going to start tonight. The college football season ends with the Alabama Crimson Tide getting their, what is it now, 6th championship under Nick Saban. So... they just basically put it on Ohio State. They win 52-24. Mac Jones has an incredible day. He throws 5 touchdowns. Najee Harris gets 2 touchdowns on the ground, 1 through the air. Devonta Smith, 3 touchdowns through the air.
Record first half. And sadly, he hurt his hand.
Oh, geez. I didn't know that.
He left the field and came. He was out there celebrating after the game with a cast on his hand.
Yeah, I mean, just an incredible performance, by the Alabama Crimson Tide. And I mean, at the end of the day, as much as hey, we don't like to gas up Alabama unless we absolutely have to. But you know what? I mean, they put on a great season. They beat the number 3 team twice this season, both by double digits, both by 3 scores. They beat their 2 opponents in the college football playoff by 3 scores. They beat, pretty much everybody on their schedule by, at least multiple touchdowns. The rest, the only exception to that was Florida in the SEC championship game, and that's only because Kyle Trask was able to throw kind of a garbage time touchdown there. So Alabama, as much as we like to kind of dog on them sometimes and say that, sometimes, some seasons they're overrated, but this was not one of those seasons. So, it was entertaining. The game itself was entertaining for maybe the first quarter and a half. And then if you like to watch, the Heisman Trophy winner, I didn't realize that basically this is the first time, technically I was born with the last time a wide receiver won the Heisman, but I was literally less than a year old when Desmond Howard won it.
Yeah.
In
1991.
Yeah, so I mean, the fact that it's the first wide receiver to win the Heisman in 30 years, and you kind of watched him put on a show, kind of the rest of that game. I mean, it was pretty incredible to watch. So, it was a solid game. Obviously, for the sake of just being different, you kind of wanted Ohio State to win because I didn't even register in my brain that they hadn't even been to the national championship since 2014. So. the fact they got an opportunity, and I was like, hey, it's something different, something not Alabama Clemson. Um, so that was kind of refreshing. But overall, I mean, it was an entertaining game. I was entertained. It wasn't obviously close, but it was just fun to watch that Alabama offense go.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like when I watch Ohio State play in the Big Ten, Big Ten, those are big guys. They're not small at all. Um, Even though I feel like Purdue players are always so small compared to everybody else. But Ohio State, when they line up against other Big Ten teams, it's like men against boys. I felt that way about Alabama against Ohio State. I don't know what it is about them that, like, I don't know what they feed them in that program, but these guys are just built differently. I mean, Devonta Smith is like super tall with arms that go stretched down to his ankles. I mean, he's built to be a wide receiver. It's crazy. And then you see what they've had in the past with like Travis Henry. I mean, there's a picture of him standing next to Mark Ingram a couple national championships ago, and he just looks like this monster. I mean, it's just like, what do they feed them down there? And what's funny is that I think it's the head strength and conditioning coach now, or one of the strength and conditioning coaches for the program, is from Avon. He used to be the strength and conditioning coach at Avon High School. And now he's the strength and conditioning coach at Alabama. I mean, whatever he's doing something right, because those guys are just huge. But, I mean, this Alabama team was just on a different level. I mean, Ohio State was definitely no slouch of a team. And it just, I don't think anybody was truly going to be able to stop Alabama this year. I don't even think Clemson even remotely stood a chance in that game either. I mean, they're just built differently year in and year out. Now, the best thing I've seen about the entire game today was, people have been posting this, that it's like Nick Saban's playing NCAA football 14, and he's beaten the game so badly with Alabama that he's going to in dynasty mode, that he's going to have to restart it or go back and be like Wyoming or something. Kind of similar to what you would do. You would win, and when you do dynasty mode, you win those championships, and then you go somewhere else for an even bigger challenge to try to win more championships. That's like what Nick Saban's doing here at Alabama. I'm not saying he's going to go to Wyoming, but yeah, it's just unreal the amount of success that he's had.
Yeah, I mean, Nick Saban needs to start doing like what Theo Epstein has done in baseball and just start going to all these schools just so they can get them national championships. But yeah, I mean, and that's kind of the crazy thing too, is that it was cool to see Ohio State in there just to be something different. But at the same time, you think the only team that maybe could have even matched up with Alabama is Clemson, and then who knows if they would have even been close.
Ohio State took Clemson to the woodshed.
Right. And, the Big Ten was a little bit down this year. So, Alabama was, without a doubt, obviously the best team all season. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we can say, oh, man, it would have been nice to see somebody different win all we want. But at the same time, they played very good football all season. Hats off to Nick Saban for what he's been able to do.
And props to Ohio State, too. I mean, this was a team that was having some COVID issues. I mean, they were without their star running back from the past few weeks, Trey Sermon. I mean, yeah, they had Master Teague back, but Master Teague is a different type of runner than Trey Sermon. To be able to be missing that 1-2 punch, that was huge. But for the fact that Ohio State actually hung with Alabama through most of the first half was quite impressive. It looked like there for a while. It's like, okay, the team that's going to win this game is going to be the one that has the ball last. Unfortunately, that did not happen. I don't think Ohio State even force a punt?
I don't think so.
No. Game. I mean, the only time Alabama did not score was probably when the clock ran out, and there was that fumble by Mac Jones. So, but hey, still hats off to Ohio State to come in and play a shortened season and be able to cast off one of your demons in Clemson, and for Justin Fields to play the way he did with so many people doubting him. Props to them. They definitely deserve to play in that game, but Alabama was just far beyond better than probably anybody else in the entire country.
Absolutely. And speaking of the entire country, we're going to kind of tie a bow up on the on the college football season. Final rankings come out. I mean, you've got obviously Alabama 1, Clemson 2, Ohio State 3, Notre Dame 4. Wait, is that that's final college football playoff rankings? The final actual rankings are this. Sorry, my bad. I was looking at the wrong column there. Alabama 1, Ohio State 2, Clemson 3, Texas A&M bumps up to 4, Notre Dame rounds out the top 5. But the thing I want to get to probably the most is the Ball State Fighting Cardinals, the fiercest robin-sized bird in the land, the Harvard of the Midwest, finishes their season ranked number 23rd in the country. They beat a ranked team for their bowl win. They won the MAC championship game, and to think this all started with a loss against Miami of Ohio at the beginning of the season. Pretty crazy to think about that. So
had
Ball
they not lost to Miami of Ohio, we may be talking Alabama versus Ball State.
Hey, we always said we wanted Bama, right?
No. I was actually a bit surprised that Ball State was not ranked higher than that. But I guess when I look at the teams that are right ahead of them, it's like USC and Miami.
Yeah.
So those teams were good teams, but
hey, at least
I was a little bit surprised that they probably weren't in the 2021 range. They were just ahead of San Jose State and Buffalo.
Also,
so that was kind of disappointing.
Also, the fact that I think of those, with the exception of USC, I think they played probably the fewest games to the teams in front of them. Miami played 11 games, Oklahoma State played 11 games, Texas played 10, North Carolina played 12, Liberty played 11. So, I mean, I think it's kind of, I think once it got down to, because obviously Ohio State was up there because we all knew they were going to be a great team going into the season, no matter if they played one game or 12 games. I think they kind of took that into consideration, the fewer games, as they went on down the list. And also, I mean, the loss to Miami doesn't help either. I mean, they obviously didn't get an opportunity to go play, a team out of their conference that might have given them a little bit more cred. I mean, most of these teams didn't either.
San Jose State? That doesn't give you enough cred?
I'm saying because if they would have picked off like a non-group, or if they would have picked off like a low-level Power 5 school, because they would have had I think they would have played IU this season if it weren't for COVID.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, so
that would have been an intriguing matchup.
Right, like little did we know that would be the battle for Indiana supremacy.
Final two thoughts for me though for about those rankings.
Yeah.
One, big shout out to the MAC getting 2 teams in the final top 25.
Oh yeah,
that's like the first time ever. So that's great. And secondly, preseason way too early, 2021 rankings have come out, and I hope they stick because I have a feeling this is going to be an absolute disaster. But preseason rankings already, IU 10th in the country.
No.
That is asking for them to be on a list of biggest busts of the season. Easily. Or most overrated teams of the season. Easily.
Oh yeah, that's
Penn State's not going to be bad again. Michigan's not going to be bad again. Ohio State just restocks. They don't rebuild. And I mean, Wisconsin's not going to be bad. Purdue's going to get better after they got rid of after they got rid of the cancer of the locker room and Bob Diaco.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I hope they start 10th in the season, because that, just to hear all the IU fans chirping about that and then they come out and lay an egg.
Yeah, it'll be like basketball, but on a lesser scale when they come out preseason number 1. Yeah, exactly. It'll be when they come out like ranked top 5 in the country and then finish the season unranked in basketball. But no, so yeah, one final thought on Ball State real quick though is I think we were talking about it last week. I think this solidifies them as the best team in program history. Just the fact that you end the season ranked for the first time ever, you win a bowl game for the first time ever, and you won the MAC championship for the first time in 24 years.
And watch out for them next year.
Yeah, they're going to be tough.
Their big campaign right now is run it back, and already MAC Defensive Player of the Year Brandon Martin has said that he's going to come back for that extra year of eligibility. So they want to prove it again, and I think they're going to be a very tough team if they can run back a couple of some of those players. I wouldn't be surprised to see them starting up preseason around the top 25 as well.
All right, well, that wraps up the college football season. It was a lot of fun. It was a very interesting season, and I'm excited to see. Hopefully, we get a full season next year to kind of see how some of these storylines play out. But we're gonna now go and switch on to some talk about Wild Card Weekend, get some NFL playoff talk in. But first, let's get a quick word from Anchor. The Crash Course Podcast is brought to you by Anchor. Looking to start a podcast but don't know where to start? Look no further than Anchor.fm. Anchor allows you to record and edit your podcast right from your computer or mobile device and will distribute it to other sites such as Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. On a budget, not only is Anchor completely free of charge, but will allow you to make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. Download the free Anchor app or go to Anchor.fm to get started. Anchor, it's everything you need in a podcast in one place.
Are you tired of your same old lunch hour of sitting and scrolling through your apps on your smartphone? Have you thought about playing a board game with your coworkers? Eat Lunch and Board Game is a podcast dedicated to telling you about board games that are great for lunchtime fun and some that are probably better saved for after work hours. I've been playing games at my office for over 4 years now where I have made new friends and business connections that have been very useful. Board games build bridges.
All right, real quick, before we get into the talk about Wild Card Weekend, I do want to give a couple quick shout-outs very quickly. I didn't really need to say quickly twice there, did I? So we're gonna it's gonna be fast, guys. Pay attention. First of all, I want to thank you guys for all the support on the YouTube video this past week. I know it's just the podcast, the video version of the podcast, but y'all showed up. Got us our second highest viewed video, in channel history, as well as the highest viewed podcast that we've posted in channel history, as well as the best video that we've posted out of the last 10. So I really appreciate the support that you guys have shown on that. And then also want to thank Dapper Dan WV for hanging out in the chat. Oh, this is kind of the point of having this on Twitch and having this, kind of live, feed going, and so that we can interact with you guys. So thank you guys for showing up. I hope we get more of you out there, because we want to hear your guys' thoughts on the season. Want to hear you guys give us, kind of your opinions on things, so we can react to those. We were just in the chat now talking about the group of 5 schools, talking about, Cincy lost, which was unfortunate. Coastal Carolina lost. So I think the banner of the mid-majors, if it doesn't go to Ball State, goes to Tulsa, because they at least beat their SEC opponent. No, they lost to Mississippi State, didn't they? So, all the group of 5 teams lost. All the ranked ones lost, except for Liberty, who played Coastal. So, yeah, kind of disappointing to see there, because, we always clamor for the group of 5, and then they didn't really show up in the bowl games this year. Oh, they did. But moving on now to Wild Card Weekend, of course, we have to start right here, and that is with the Bills and the Colts. Recap of that game, and we'll get you caught up on the second half here, B. Scott. The Colts trailed 14-10 at the half. Stephon Diggs got a touchdown catch early in the fourth quarter to make it 24-10 Bills. Zach Pascal's touchdown made it 24-16. They went for 2, didn't get it. Jack Doyle then, late in the game, had a touchdown catch and a 2-point conversion, which made it a 27-24 game. The Colts were driving late, had an opportunity to possibly set up what would be the game-tying field goal. There was a play on 4th down and 10 where Rivers passes it to Zach Pascal. Pascal catches it, turns to go upfield. He fumbles the football. Ruling on the field was that he was down. But I watched the replays of it a bunch of different times. It looked to me like he fumbled it. Thankfully for the Colts, the call stands, but they don't do anything after that. Rivers throws a Hail Mary up at the end of the game. It's short of the end zone, and the Bills win their first playoff game in 25 years. But, you look at the box score at the end of the game, you see Rivers, 309 yards, 2 touchdowns, and, that in and of itself for Phillip Rivers, I think is a pretty solid stat line, especially when you compare it to Jared Allen, Josh Allen, who had 324 yards and 2 touchdowns. But then you talked about it last week, B. Scott, his ability as a runner for Allen, 54 rushing yards and a touchdown. Jonathan Taylor, solid game on the ground. Didn't get to 100 yards, but did rush for 78 yards and a touchdown. And then Stephon Diggs had a really good game. 6 catches, 128 yards, and a touchdown. So, some of the key talking points after this game was that, of course, the missed field goal by Rodrigo Blankenship that obviously goes off the upright. You have that field goal. Game's tied, and everything plays out the same. Game's tied at 27. They went for it on 4th and goal earlier on in the game, and they didn't get it. Obviously, you get that touchdown, you're ahead. Possibly at the end of the game, you kick a field goal there, you're possibly tied at the end of the game if everything plays out similarly. So, that's kind of the, sour grapes that the Colts have. But at the end of the day, B. Scott, we were saying this before, we went live tonight, and that is, what? I'm okay with how the Colts season has played out. I mean, obviously, it stinks that, it had to, obviously end on a loss, but, I sent it out in a tweet that the fact that, the Colts played, the toughest, the second toughest team, obviously in the AFC. The AFC has been stacked all season. I'm really excited about the future. Now, obviously, that future changed a little bit today with the retiring of Anthony Costanzo. But I'm optimistic about the future for the Indianapolis Colts, reacting to the game. The loss stings, but the future is bright. Yes, Rodrigo Blankenship misses a field goal. Obviously that stinks. But I'm okay with the call on 4th down and goal because Pittman had a chance to catch it. It just goes through his fingertips. It was, I think, a little bit.
It wasn't. I don't know if it just went. He was stretched out.
Well, right, but I mean, he had. It's not like Rivers threw it.
Hit his hands and he dropped it.
Well, okay, I'm not.
It was going to be a tough catch.
I didn't compare it to who was the guy on the Bears who dropped like a wide open touchdown. I'm not saying it was that bad. I'm just saying like he had an opportunity to catch it. It's not like they ran some like gadget play or something ridiculous or tried to run it straight up the middle or Rivers threw.
Like they had Quentin Nelson drop back and pass it.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like Phillip Rivers just threw a rocket ship into the 10th row of the bleachers. Like it was a solid play. There was a chance there, and I mean, at the end of the day too. I mean, who knows if they get a touchdown there, if they kick a field goal there? Who knows how the rest of the game plays out? Because that's always kind of what gets me when people are like, oh well, if they there's a missed field goal, which those happen, whatever. Like, okay, yeah, but at the same time, this is judging that the rest of the game plays out exactly the way that it does.
It was a momentum shift.
Exactly. Yeah, that's true. But also, any of the things we've talked about would have only tied the game. So we don't know, with the exception of, I mean, I guess, obviously, if they had an extra touchdown, obviously that would be different. But, we don't know what would have happened in overtime. And then, like I said, I think the Colts get away with one with the fumble at the end of the game that's called that he's down. I think Zach Pascal fumbled. And then, I mean, the biggest thing after that is the fact that the Colts ran 4 plays after that call, and they got -1 yards out of it. They didn't move the ball any further, any closer to give Rodrigo Blankenship a chance. Now, obviously, I know they were running against the clock as well, but they were all kind of trying to get to that mark where they needed to get to the field goal instead of maybe, hey, we'll run one, because they got 4 more plays out of it, so maybe, a play to try to get to the first down marker, get to that field goal mark, and then maybe a shorter pass play or something. You know what I mean? The play calling was a little suspect in that regard, but at the end of the day, the Colts lose a tough one, but I'm not sitting here, a couple days later saying, like, you know what? It all stinks. Blow it up. They should have won. Get rid of Frank Reich. Whatever. No. Solid season. I'll take it with me. I don't, and honestly, too, I mean, I don't know if they would have had it any easier against the Chiefs next week either. So I don't know that the season. I mean, basically, we're talking.
We're going to get the game that is going to be a great game next weekend with the Bills and the Chiefs. I don't think it would have been as good of a game if the Colts had made it.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows?
Right. Yeah.
But
because the Colts, honestly, thinking about it, the Colts have gotten better since losing to the Chiefs in the divisional round 2 years ago, but honestly, the Chiefs have gotten better too. The Chiefs are a better team than they were in
Oh, hey, the
2008.
Colts just beat the Chiefs last season.
Well, right, but I'm saying they're both better. I'm not saying that it's a guaranteed loss for the Colts. I'm just saying
Oh,
both
yeah.
teams are much improved from then. And I mean, it was a great win for the Colts in Kansas City. But I mean, even then, I mean, who knows what we would have seen because it was Jacoby Brissett. The defense was way different. So, but I think for the better though. So we'll see. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't have thought it would be a blowout on either side. But I mean, I don't know that the Colts beat the Chiefs if they had won.
No. Um, what's funny is you said the play calling that those last 4 plays was kind of suspect, and that's what a lot of people were saying about the entire second half. Um, early on, Jonathan Taylor was doing really well in the first half, and that it's this what I'm about to say seems to be a common thread amongst all Colts losses this season. They're running the ball well in the first half, so they get to the second half, and what do? They go away from the run. Jonathan Taylor becomes like non-existent out there, and it's one of those confusing things for Colts fans. I know, you said I'm not saying to get rid of Frank Reich or anything or blow it all up. There's actually people out there that are wanting Frank Reich to be fired. They're tired of the analytics over common sense. They're tired of the suspect play calling. I'm kind of in between on both. I think, okay, if you get rid of Frank Reich, who is out there that is going to be better? There's one person, one. I think I'm going to pronounce his name totally wrong, but Eric Bieniemy, something, the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah.
That's probably about it. And I don't say he's better. He may be as good, but maybe not. He doesn't have the experience as a head coach. So I'm like, if you want to get rid of Frank Reich, who do you want to bring in that could do a better job? I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, you're going to elevate Matt Eberflus to head coach? I don't know. But so let's stop all that talk first off. When you look at this game, though, it's Colts fans in general also are funny because, it wasn't that long ago we were all so in love with Rodrigo Blankenship. And then he has a rough game to end the season against Jacksonville and misses one against the Bills. And everybody's saying the Colts have to draft a kicker. They have to draft a kicker. Like, are you serious? No, he's a rookie. Give him a break. I know. I mean, yeah, he's doinked a few here recently. He's still a rookie. I mean, nobody comes in right into the league and is clutch Adam Vinatieri. We've been spoiled at that position as well. So, stop, calm down. Rodrigo Blankenship is the answer as a kicker for the Colts. But yeah, I don't think this season at all is a failure because they lost in the wild card round. I do believe, though, this was Phillip Rivers' first loss in the wild card round as a quarterback. I think he was undefeated when he was with the Chargers in the wild card round. So that kind of stinks for him. But yeah, this was definitely not a failure by any means. I mean, you look at how deep the AFC was this year, and the fact that we talked last week, the Colts barely made it in at 11-5, and this was a very, very tough conference. So no matter what, I mean, look, the Titans, they won the division, they hosted a playoff game, and they still lost. I mean, the AFC is just stacked top to bottom. Anybody in the AFC has a legitimate shot of making the Super Bowl. Can they? It's Kansas City's to lose. But, don't hang your heads by any stretch of the imagination. Remember, this is a team that hasn't been in the playoffs recently. This is a team that's its ceiling was 8-8. And a lot of people even thought that about this season. And the defense is, you just got to look at this team as a whole and look at where it's going to be in the future. Yes, I know the Colts have 21 pending free agents, but you look at who some of those free agents are, and you can say, you know what, that may end up helping the Colts eventually, because you're most likely not going to re-sign Ty or Zach Pascal. You may re-sign one, but you're not going to re-signing both. I think you're more likely to re-sign Zach Pascal, unfortunately. Not that he's a bad player, just because everybody loves Ty. But, Ty is not the same player that he once was. He's a player that relies on his speed. He's getting older, he's slowing down, and he's still more injury prone. So I don't see that happening. But, now with Anthony Costanzo retiring, that frees up a lot of money in the cap and allows you to now sign Braden Smith to a long-term contract, Darius Leonard to long-term contracts. You can start talking to Quentin Nelson as well. I mean, this is allowing this team to keep some of its key players in there and still be able to go out and bring in still have enough money to bring in some top tier free agents. Is Chris Ballard going to do that? Most likely he's not, because that's just not what he does. But you never know. So I think the future's bright with this team, mostly because of the defense. They have one of the best defenses in the entire NFL, and that's usually one of the best offensive lines in the entire NFL. Those two things alone are very tough things to build. And if you have those things set up, you can be a championship contender. Now, the biggest thing is they have to find a quarterback. That's the next thing. I think they're going to be able to do that, whether it's going to be bringing back Phillip Rivers or, I've been talking to some other people saying, hey, I'm all for trying to sign Dak Prescott. I think he'd be a great fit with the Colts. Some other people are saying, well, why not sell the farm draft pick wise for Deshaun Watson? Yeah, it may cost 3 future first round picks, but if the Colts are picking in the 28 to 32 range with Deshaun Watson, that's not that bad of a thing to give up. You're not like it's tough, but to have a quarterback in their prime to go along with your weapons, your offensive line, and your stellar defense.
I could see the pushback being pretty much equal on the Texans side too, because if they trade a season after trading away DeAndre Hopkins, just in general, to then this following season trade, Deshaun Watson to not only a division rival, but probably your biggest division rival and the biggest threat to you winning an AFC South for the next however many years. I can't see the Texans signing off on that.
Well, I don't think you're going to have to worry about that now. One, the team that was looking most likely that they were going to trade for him was Miami, looking at, draft compensation and Tua to the Texans. That Deshaun said he would waive his no trade clause for Miami, but Houston's making good on what he's been wanting. They came to him for advice, like, hey, who are you looking at? Who would you think would be a good fit for you for our new head coach? He gave them some names, and then they went and talked to everybody else. Well, they figured out, well, wait a second, everybody else that we talked to is not the answer. So now they're interviewing Eric Bieniemy once he's able to do the interview, the offensive coordinator from the Chiefs, and that was the target number 1 for Deshaun Watson. So Houston may be mending that fence by doing the right thing and hiring Eric Bieniemy potentially, and I think you're not going to see Deshaun Watson on the trade block if that ends up happening. So look for the Colts to make a push for somebody like a Dak Prescott. I still wouldn't be surprised to see the Colts try to make a push for Carson Wentz, even though now there's talk that he's not going to leave Philadelphia since Doug Peterson was let go. So I don't know. It'll be interesting. There is even talk that the Colts could land Kyle Trask in the second round, which wouldn't be a bad thing. But you also got to remember the Colts do have Jacob Eason on the roster. So where do you go? That's probably the 2 biggest question marks for the Colts this offseason are, who are you going to bring in at left tackle? Are you going to go through the draft? Because you're obviously not going to go through free agency. That's going to be very, very tough. And because when somebody has a cornerstone left tackle, they just don't go anywhere. Same thing with pass rushers. So who's going to be at left tackle? Who are you going to have as your quarterback? Because right now you only have 1 quarterback on the roster. And then the third question the Colts have to answer, it's question 3A and 3B. 3A being, do you re-sign Justin Houston? And then 3B, if you do re-sign Justin Houston, or if you decide not to re-sign Justin Houston, who do you bring in as another pass rusher? I'm looking more at re-signing Justin Houston and trying to sign Ryan Kerrigan as well, another good veteran pass rusher to come in off the other side. That could be a very, very dangerous combo.
Hey, where did Ryan Kerrigan go to college?
He went to Muncie Central for high school.
I know.
He's a Muncie guy.
He is.
He was an All-American at Purdue. He was a first round pick.
It's okay. I'm wearing a Purdue sweater. It's fine. I was just trying to get you to say it.
It's not because he's a Purdue guy.
No, I know.
He's a solid football player that could really contribute for the Colts.
B. Scott, I'm not above getting the low-hanging fruit that is you and your Purdue fandom. I'm not.
Well, it's just I would say that even if he wasn't a Purdue guy, because he's a player that's very talented, that's gotten buried on the depth chart by an incompetent Washington football team.
Yeah.
And it's.
Well, they don't necessarily, because he's on the line, so like they don't even or like.
No, they play him at linebacker, and he's more built and is better. I mean, he's played very well at linebacker as a rush backer, but he's more known for putting his hand in the dirt. And as he's getting older, he's in his 30s.
Yeah.
And as he gets older, I mean, that's typically the next step for these bigger linebackers is to move up to D end and get their hand in the dirt again, and that's when they can pin their ears back and just go get the passer, and they don't have to worry about dropping into coverage.
Now, last week you gave us a little bit of a draft preview of what you were thinking, and so like that. Well, going back to that, like I want to before wrapping things up on the Colts, like that's kind of the final thought on is like. I think now knowing what we know about, Anthony Costanzo retiring, it kind of sucks.
Who said that was going to happen? Who said that was?
I think it was you, B. Scott. It was you.
I called that. I've been calling that ever since he got injured and he was going to have season-ending surgery.
Coach B
retire.
Is on it. Coach B is just nailing it. Yeah, but so like that's the thing that kind of stinks. In addition to everything else, is like you would have been nice to see him get like another playoff win, even though he wasn't on the field for it. But, I mean, does that mean the Colts try, like, we see another move in the first round for an offensive lineman again like we saw a couple years ago?
No, I don't see that happening because majority of there's going to be some really solid offensive linemen, especially tackles, near the back end of the first round. You're still going to be looking at guys like Alex Leatherwood from Alabama or Samuel Cosme from Texas. Those two players would be great cornerstones at the left tackle positions. The player you may miss out on that could be fringe if he does fall to you because of a rush on quarterbacks is Christian Darrisaw out of Virginia Tech. That is a player to keep an eye on. I mean, those are the three players that if I'm the Colts, I'm targeting in some fashion. I'm bringing them in for workouts. I'm going to their pro days, whatever they're able to do with COVID and everything. But those are the three offensive linemen that I'm seriously looking at. There is, I think his name is Liam Eichenberg out of Notre Dame as well at tackle. That would be another name to watch for. He may be one of those players that kind of bumps in from the second round into the late first round. So that's a player that I've been seeing rise in different mock drafts. So definitely look out for actually those four players. Be on the lookout for them. I think Darrisaw is definitely the reach of the two, not because he's not talented enough, but he may be a reach because he's not going to be there by the time the Colts pick, unless there is that run at quarterbacks and at wide receivers, because the first round is going to be loaded with those two positions. So if there's a run on those two positions, Darrisaw has a potential to fall to 21 to the Colts, but look out for Alex Leatherwood, Sam Cosme, and Liam Eichenberg out of Notre Dame.
So there you go. Hopefully they can get one of those guys and restock there on the offensive line, because obviously that's now a huge need for the Colts going into this offseason. I think
definitely that's what you have to go for in the first round if you're the Colts.
So now, looking ahead here, before we get to the rest of Wildcard Weekend, we do want to remind you can follow us at Crash Course FM on Twitter, like us on Facebook, Crash Course Podcast. Go subscribe to us on YouTube, Crash Course Podcast. Again, we post this version, the video version of the podcast over on YouTube, as well as some snippets of the show as well. More YouTube exclusive content is in the works, so you won't want to miss that. Also, if you are listening on the audio version of the podcast, remember we do stream on Twitch, twitch.tv/3C Media. We stream live every Monday. Obviously, we're recording this on Tuesday because of the national championship game, but typically every Monday we will be live. So make sure you check that out. Also, remember you can catch us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever podcasts can be heard. You can hear the Crash Course podcast.
Definitely check us out on Twitch. I mean, we got two faces for radio here.
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of a step away from our comfort zone. Who would have thought? We were on radio to begin things. Now we're broadcasting our mugs for everyone to see. I don't
Everybody's
know.
now like, that's what they look like.
What? I don't. Okay. What? I would have stopped listening to them a lot sooner. I mean, crazily enough, this is the fourth national championship game we've wrapped up and the fourth playoffs we've gone through.
Yeah, and wait a second, the fourth one.
Because
Alabama didn't play in it last year.
Alabama,
3 out of the 4,
yeah.
Alabama played in.
Yeah, Alabama, Georgia, Alabama, Clemson, LSU, Alabama. Or no, LSU, Clemson, and then this year with Alabama and Ohio State. And then the first playoffs we did was Eagles and Patriots, the first Super Bowl season we did. So,
right.
So yeah, we've come along.
That one we recorded in my living room.
We did record
on your
it.
Way home from 1070.
Yeah, it was a good one too, and I'm excited to get into to this year's Super Bowl because unlike then, we now with the way Wild Card Weekend kind of the way it kind of played out, I really don't have any team I would not like seeing in the Super Bowl, with maybe the exception of the Buccaneers. But I think I could look past Tom Brady to see like Rob Gronkowski get another one or Mike Evans get one or.
I'm looking at Bruce Arians.
Bruce Arians is good too.
Just Bruce Arians, nobody else.
So looking at the rest of Wild Card Weekend here, following the Colts game was Rams Seahawks. The Rams win 30-20 over the Seahawks. I think we both had Seattle, so that's not upset there.
Well, wasn't it like 13 straight home playoff wins for them?
Yeah. So the Rams snapped that streak. The Buccaneers win 31-23 over the Washington Football Team. I mean, Taylor Heineke was going off.
Okay, I didn't see this game. What happened to Alex Smith?
So he was ruled out before the game even got going, which was kind of like as soon as like, and that's what stunk. I mean, obviously, if you're hurt, you're hurt. Taylor Heineke put on a show. Congratulations to him. But like that was the thing that kind of stunk about that game, is the fact that like here we go. Here's this potential upset. Alex Smith, comeback player of the year. Let's go. I'm excited for that game. Oh, Alex Smith isn't playing? Well, now I'm significantly more bummed about this game because I don't think it's going to play out anywhere close to where it potentially could have if Alex Smith had played. But regardless, the Buccaneers win by 8. So, I mean, it's not like the Buccaneers put it on them. The Washington Football Team definitely showed that they deserve to be there.
Tom Brady, done.
Like, as in retire?
No, I don't think he was going to retire. Remember, this is a guy that's going to eat,
He's going to play till he's 45.
He has the fountain of youth in his backyard.
Yeah.
And he's going to play till the day he dies. I mean, if he ever dies, that's the thing. I mean, he's got the fountain of youth. But I think he's not the Tom Brady that we all have become accustomed to. Let's just be honest. He's not.
Oh, yeah.
And what's sad is that he's got so many weapons, and it's not the same.
Yeah.
So I think we can all say, it was Bill Belichick, not Tom Brady.
Yeah, because, I mean, think about, I mean, obviously it's Brady in his prime, but look at, like, what he even had, I mean, obviously he doesn't have what he had when there was, like, Stallworth, Welker, Moss, and those running backs over there. But even
his last Super Bowl win.
Right. Edelman.
He has better weapons now than he did then. I mean, Julian Edelman, that was it, really.
Yeah.
And, he had Gronk. Gronk and Edelman. I mean, seriously?
Yeah.
You can't get it done. You're struggling to get it done with
Antonio Brown, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Leonard Fournette. I mean, just basically an all-star team. Or, I mean, an island of misfit toys, I guess, is the more apt. They're all good, but they all have their backstories. Sunday games, Ravens beat the Titans. Dan points out in the chat, and I thought it was pretty crazy as well. Just 40 carries. Or 40 yards on 18 carries for Derrick Henry on the game for them. So we talked about
both picked that he would hit you said he would get 150, and I said he would come close.
Yeah,
Neither one of us were
we
close.
thought that he was set for a big day, and we were wrong. The Saints beat the Bears 21-9, and the Browns put it on the Steelers. They get 5 turnovers. They force 5 turnovers. And they win 48-37. Dan also brought up in the chat he thinks Big Ben will be back. I thought the sentiment was that he might not be.
I don't think he will be.
But just because of how badly that game ended, with obviously losing to the Browns.
Big Ben is a shell of himself as well.
True. Well, and the thing is that, like, what is it with teams? We saw this with Clemson, Ohio State. What is it with teams just voluntarily giving bulletin board material to the teams they're playing in a postseason game? Because the Steelers were like, oh, it's the same old Browns. It's fine. We're ready for them. Which, I mean, I guess that's pretty standard. But at the same time, like, dude, the Browns are...
And they're still giving them bulletin board material. Did you see what Chase Claypool has said?
No, I didn't see that, no.
They're the Browns. They're still going to go out next week, and they're going to get bounced.
I don't think, like, what? You can't say that when you just got bounced.
You just got beat. They took you out back. They took you out back.
Yeah.
And you're still running at the mouth? Stop.
Yeah. Stop it.
Stop it.
So, it's that meme, that Michael Jordan meme on Twitter. Stop it. Get some help. So that sets up the divisional round this weekend. The Rams at the Packers, the Buccaneers at the Saints on the NFC side. AFC, it's going to be the Ravens at the Bills, the Browns at the Chiefs. So that is going to bring us to our final segment here of the night, and that is hot or cold, where we give an opinion and say whether it's a hot take or a cold take. And so let's go ahead and get things kicked off here. First question: the Rams defense will contain Rodgers, Jones, and Adams. I think that is a cold take. Starting off with the fact that first of all, you take the big three that the Rams just beat. Russell Wilson, Chris Carson, and DK Metcalf. So at least this season, I think I'm taking Rodgers over Russ. I'm taking Aaron Jones over Chris Carson, and I'm taking. The biggest comparison between those two that you can make is Devontae Adams and DK Metcalf, and I think that Adams is more consistently good than Metcalf is. So already,
Metcalf is just a freak of nature.
Yeah. So already
horrible ball handling skills. He fumbles a lot.
Right, and so that big three that the Packers have, I think, is a lot better than the big three of the Seahawks. I mean, the Packers have one of the best offenses in the league. The Seahawks were kind of middle of the road. So already you're facing a better quarterback, better offense that the Rams are facing. And the Packers are 4-2 against defenses in the top third of the league, the top 11. And they're 3-2 when the quarterbacks of those teams have a QBR that is the team that has a better QBR than Jared Goff. So this season, they played Mitchell Trubisky twice, had a better QBR than Jared Goff.
Are you serious?
I looked this up.
That is hard to believe.
The only quarterback with the worst
is on the trade block or about to ready to get cut.
He's
about ready to get let go in free agency.
The only quarterback that the Packers faced that had that was on the team of a top 11 defense but had a quarterback rating that was worse than Jared Goff was Nick Mullins of the 49ers this season. The rest of the defenses they've played have all been quarterbacked by better quarterbacks than what they'll see this weekend with Jared Goff.
Phillip Rivers and the Colts.
So yeah, they did lose to Phillip Rivers and the Colts, which better quarterback, better team. They lost to, they did lose to Tampa Bay, better roster, better quarterback than Jared Goff, better team. And on the season, they also beat Drew Brees, who his defense is pretty good as well. You got, their losses have been kind of understandable losses to top tier defenses. And, they've been to teams that have high-powered offenses as well to match that. And while, yes, the Rams do have, Cam Akers, who had a big game, over 100 yards against the Seahawks. They have Russell Wilson, who's a good quarterback, a top 10 quarterback in the league. You have, the Rams have all these great wide receivers. The offense for the Rams, I just, it's not what it's not. I don't think it's going to be able to compete with the Packers offense, and the defense of the Rams I don't think it's going to be able to keep up with the explosiveness of the Packers offense. So I'm going with a cold take there.
Yeah, I'm going with a cold take as well. I mean, it is in Green Bay, first off. And the biggest reason I'm saying it's a cold take, it's going to be cold. They are actually looking at a potential snowstorm in Green Bay. So that is the type of conditions that the Packers thrive in. And yeah, I think LA is going to be like, get us back to sunny California and get us out of this snowstorm. So yeah, I don't think they're going to be able to contain Rodgers and company. I mean, Rodgers. Let's be honest. Rodgers is if not for Pat Mahomes and Josh Allen, Rodgers is the clear MVP this season, in my opinion.
Question number 2: the Bills' passing attack will outperform the Ravens' rushing attack. The Ravens ran rampant all over the Tennessee Titans this weekend. Just an incredible showing by Lamar Jackson. Over 100 yards of rushing, 100 yards rushing, 100 yards passing. You don't see that very often in the NFL. But Lamar Jackson had an incredible game. And you look at it, the Bills have the third best passing offense in the NFL. The Ravens have the first rushing offense. The Ravens have the sixth against the pass, and the Bills are 17th against the run. So I think this is a cold take. I think the Ravens are due for another big game. And I think they're going to beat the Bills this weekend. As much as I want to see the Bills potentially get to the Super Bowl, potentially get the 90s out of their past a little bit, more behind them a little bit. I do think the Ravens get the win this weekend and play really well and run the ball well, because I think the defense for the Ravens is just all around better than the Bills' defense, and I think that the Bills' passing game can be more easily contained by the Ravens defense than the Bills being able to stop the run. Because, I mean, while the Colts this weekend did have Jonathan Taylor and the Bills did okay against Jonathan Taylor, they also had Phillip Rivers, who isn't a mobile quarterback really at all. So, you have two good running backs for the Baltimore Ravens in J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards, which we can debate whether or not they're comparable to Jonathan Taylor and Nyheim Hines. But at the same time, you add that extra element of having, a mobile quarterback. I think that adds a little bit more to the mix. I think Lamar Jackson has a big game. And so I think the Ravens end up beating the Bills. I think it's a cold take. The Ravens have a great day rushing the football.
Yeah, I agree. It's a cold take. Right now, everybody says, yes, the Bills are one of the hottest teams, but right now the hottest team in the NFL is the Ravens. That's what I said last week, looking ahead at the wild card weekend. Their defense is playing at a different level, and I don't think they're scared of anyone. I think what they have right now is they have their eyes. Their goal right now is to get to Kansas City. They want to prove themselves, and it's just one step at a time, to be honest. And this is the next step. And I think we're starting to see the evolution of Lamar Jackson into that complete quarterback. I think, well, not just a complete quarterback, but we're starting to see him go back to his bread and butter again, which is using his legs. Before they were trying to fit a square peg into a round hole, and it just wasn't working. And so letting him get back to what he does best has really worked very well for them. So yeah, I think it's a cold take. I think ultimately the Ravens end up beating the Bills.
Question number 3: the Browns defense will force 2 or more turnovers versus the Chiefs. Obviously, they got 5 turnovers this past weekend against the Steelers. The defense for the Browns really stepped up. But I do also think this is a cold take. A lot of cold takes. This weekend talking about. Sure. It is winter outside.
Coming, baby. Winter's coming.
And so looking at the numbers here, the Chiefs have 2 games with multiple turnovers all season. So they don't turn the ball over very often. They also have fumbled more than once in just 1 game. So they don't fumble the ball very often. And they don't turn the ball over in general. But I was looking at Patrick Mahomes' postseason history, because people kind of forget this is just the third postseason in 3 years that Patrick Mahomes has played in as a starter. He in those games he has turned the ball over. He has thrown interceptions. He has thrown an interception twice, and those both came in the Super Bowl last year. Now, if you want obviously the 49ers had a great defense. The Browns could potentially force a few turnovers here and there, but they're not the 49ers defense. Patrick Mahomes doesn't throw interceptions in the playoffs. The Chiefs don't turn the ball over in general. They don't fumble the ball. So I think the Chiefs are going to just kind of keep it where we're used to seeing it. They're going to, basically, as much as I want to see the Browns pull the upset, I think the Chiefs take care of business. You take those turnovers away from Cleveland. I'm not saying they couldn't have still beat the Steelers, but obviously that was a big, source of what the Browns were able to do is those turnovers. Case in point, opening snap of the football game. So I don't think that happens this week in Kansas City. They take care of the football and Kansas City wins.
Yeah, I think it's a cold take as well. If you look at some of the turnovers that Pittsburgh had, they were errors on the Pittsburgh side of things. I mean, one of them was a snap over the head of Big Ben. I mean, Cleveland had nothing to do with that. That was just a mistake, a miscue between Marquise Pouncey and Big Ben. Could that happen with Kansas City? Yeah, it could, but guess what? They're a championship team. Things like that don't happen with championship teams. It's definitely a cold take. I think, Cleveland stepped up to the plate big time against Pittsburgh because of that bulletin board material that was given to them by the Steelers. And as we have seen the Steelers over the past several weeks at the end of the season, they're not as good as we all thought they were based off of their undefeated record at the beginning. So I think we kind of got, Cleveland's going to come in with some big heads, to be honest. And they're going to feel like they're world beaters because they beat the Steelers. But guess what? You beat a team that was actually probably pretty bad, to be honest. And now you got to go up against the defending world champs. Good luck.
Yeah,
You better be prepared and don't come in with an ego, because if you come in with an ego, you're going to get sent home with your head hung very, very low.
I mean, you're not going to score. I guess you could theoretically, because didn't the Texans score 24 in the first quarter last year against the Chiefs, and then the Chiefs scored 50?
That was just the Chiefs just screwing around. I mean, let's be honest. Good. I think honestly, I don't think it was, oh my gosh, the Texans were that good. They hung 24 early and got a 24-point lead. I think that was the Texans. That was the Chiefs saying, "Yeah, we'll spot you at 24,"
and then score 52 unanswered or whatever it was.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's honestly what because then they did that again against Tennessee as well.
Yeah,
they did the same thing. So yeah, it was. Obviously, then look at the Super Bowl. It's the 49ers. Hey, we'll let you think you just won this game, but nah.
Final question. The Saints will finish the sweep of the Buccaneers on Sunday. I think that is a hot take. The Saints have outscored...
Hey, spring is here.
I think it will be a hot take. The Saints outscored the Buccaneers 72-26 in 2 meetings this season, including 38-3 in the most recent meeting. By the way, in the most recent meeting, Alvin Kamara was not the leading scorer. Taysom Hill was. So without Alvin Kamara having a great game, without even Michael Thomas having that big of a game, I think he only had like 5 catches for like 50-odd yards in that game as well. Or it was like, it wasn't a high number. It wasn't like any of their prolific players had an amazing game and they still won by 35 points. And also, I mean, you look at both quarterbacks in these games. Tom Brady, 450 yards, 2 touchdowns, but 5 interceptions against the Saints this season. The Saints, with Drew Brees, almost 400 yards, 382 to be exact, and he's thrown 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. So Brees has had a pretty fair, time against the Buccaneers defense, and Tom Brady has been, putting up some yardage, putting up some numbers, but has also struggled against the Saints defense. It is in New Orleans. Even though it's not obviously full capacity, full capacity in the Superdome, it is still obviously a road game. And so I think the Saints do win. As hard as it is to beat a team in professional football 3 times in one season, I think it does happen, and the Saints win.
Yeah, I agree. This is definitely a hot take. I mean, the first game to start the season between these two teams, Brady just didn't look like himself. And, I think it was a new system and him trying to get used to that and everything. But that last game, that was
in Tampa too.
That was in Tampa. In Tampa, the Buccaneers just looked bad. I mean, I think it was a late garbage time touchdown or no field goal. They didn't even score a touchdown in that game. And it was just like, oof, that's not pretty. And I mean, the Saints, I feel like there may be some talk in the locker room that the Saints know that Drew Brees may be retiring at the end of the season, and I think they're going out there and wanting to win it for him. And, when a team has a purpose or a mission other than just winning the championship, that's when a team becomes really, really dangerous, in my opinion, when they have something else to play for.
I mean, that's what we saw even with the Steelers and Jerome Bettis. That's what we saw with the Ravens and Ray Lewis. I mean, there is something to that.
Broncos and Peyton Manning.
Yeah, and John Elway.
Yeah, and John Elway.
So I mean, it is something. And I was talking with some friends today. I obviously you too, B. Scott. Like that's kind of the one thing I think a lot of football fans may be, universally pulling for is to see Drew Brees, go out on top, possibly win another championship to cap his career off.
And wouldn't it be great? He keeps battling with Drew Brees for most career touchdowns. Wouldn't it be great for him to, on his way to getting his second ring, to actually beat Tom Brady?
Yeah, I mean, and he's not had the opportunity to in the postseason.
They have not faced each other
because they've never played in the Super Bowl, and this is the first year.
Have they? Did they ever play each other when Drew was with the Chargers in the playoffs?
That is
probably
true.
Not.
Probably not. But I didn't even think I
don't think they made the playoffs. I don't remember. That was a long time ago. I was a freshman in high school.
It's the first time in many moons that that Drew Brees, if ever, has ever played Tom Brady.
Speaking of which, did you see that tweet that Tom Brady put out? The graphic from the History Channel.
Oh yeah, I did see that.
Him and Drew as old men. That was great.
I will say this:
since Tom Brady has left the New England Patriots, his social media game has risen, and it's great. It's given me a whole new respect for him.
I mean, just the beard on Brady alone, I was a fan of. Yeah. And then you have Brees looking like a middle-aged dad. Like I loved it.
Wasn't it? I thought Brees kind of looked more like I hate to say this because I'm a huge Drew Brees fan, but did you ever see the show Family Guy? The old perverted man that
oh my gosh, he looked like Herbert. Oh my gosh.
Kind of looked like that.
Well, you know what? Hopefully Herbert can make his way to the Super Bowl and get one as he's going out, go out on top. Oh man. Well, well, that will do it for this week's edition of the Crash Course Podcast. Thank you guys all for watching, listening, everybody who is in the chat here on Twitch, everybody who watches on the YouTube channel. Feel free to drop a comment, say who you think is going to win. If you disagree, agree with us on any topics. B. Scott, real quick before we wrap up, where can they find you?
Find me on Twitter at Brandon_Scott87.
Dude, if you're stepping up your Twitter game like you say you are, you better remember your handle.
Well, I couldn't remember where the underscore was.
True. Also, it's not like you also manage other Twitter channels.
I run 5 Twitter accounts, so
that's all of your burners. That's all your burners, so you can go harass Colts players, right?
No, none of them are burners.
I know.
Most of them have the verified check mark next to them.
Oh well. Ooh, look at me! I'm B Scott. I'm verified. All right, B Scott, I get it. You're on.
Verified.
You're Coach B over here. But yeah, at B_Scott, you said 87.
Yes.
Okay, there you go. So go check out B Scott. Remember, you can follow at Crash Course FM on Twitter, Crash Course Podcast on YouTube. Like us on Facebook. Go check us out on Twitch if you haven't already. Twitch.tv/3C Media. And remember, you can listen every week on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts,